Dear Elijah and Elena, finding your calling is serious work. Um, I say this coming from a person who has had quite a few changes in my own work history. So, the older you all get, if you would ever see my resume, you would see that after your father got out of college, I went from first job I ever had out of college, from what I can remember, was I was a janitor at a mall. And after that, my uncle was the one that really put me on as far as helping me build up my resume. He allowed me to be the work at the front desk of his family practice office. He had two of them. One during the time of the recession, so it was one where people could come in without insurance, and another one was for people with insurance. And at that same time, I was a pizza delivery driver. And then when I got married and moved to South Georgia, uh, I became a patient services coordinator for a speech therapist office, and then I worked for a college as an admissions advisor and administrative assistant to a school dean, and then the last couple of years I've been as a teacher. And all during this time I was doing part-time stuff or trying to do part-time stuff with blogging and writing and things of that nature, podcasting. And all of that time, over the time, rarely ever finding something that I enjoyed. Like really woke up in the morning for and like, man, I really, really enjoy this job. I really love what I'm doing. It's fulfilling my life. It provides me joy. There was always something wrong with it. Sometimes it was money, pay. That's another reason why I kept going to different jobs, trying to climb that financial ladder, get out of debt and things of that nature, and provide for the family, help provide for the family with my wife. And so anyway, the whole point of this video being is that's the thing I think about life that's interesting, is really working on finding your calling. Remember one time I thought I was called to be a preacher, and prayed about that, and did some sermons back in the day when I was Protestant, and really just sat there and thought about it, prayed about it, thought about it, prayed about it. It was like, you know what? I don't think God is calling me to be a preacher. It may be that, God has called me to speak in certain instances and certain areas and things of that nature, to be a blessing to people in that fashion with my writing and speaking and stuff like that. But preaching is a little different. Being a pastor is a little different, different spiritually for those of us who are religious and spiritual. So that's kind of the thing and even now, kind of transitioning out of public school education, or being a public school educator. My wife's been doing it for going on 13 years. I think she realizes that's her calling, and she realized that years ago. She loves what she does. She's stuck with the same thing. But for me, it's always been that gradual trying to find like those things that I love and that I enjoy, and that I'm really trying to make my living with. And it's serious work. And I think that's kind of the thing about, especially when I was in college, they had a thing, I think it was called the Myers-Briggs test, personality test, and kind of gave you an idea of what you wanted to do or what you could be, or not what you wanted to do, but what you could be, things that might be options for you. And so that was one of the things that I did then. And over the older I've gotten, that's what kind of partially led me in education. And then just still realizing that it just wasn't for me. And so that's one of the things too, that I would also tell you. Also part of the thing, this is also just public knowledge in the news, that with my generation, I was born in 1985, with my generation, and even I think more the Generation Xers started with them, with those who were born like in 67 after, I think, or the early 70s or whatever. A lot of people would change different jobs as their career kept progressing, so they might be one thing and then be something later. I remember my second mother was probably the first person I can remember of anyway, that I knew personally anyway, that did that, where she got a PhD in neuroscience. She's very intelligent, and of course that's my mom, so I may be a little bit biased, but I think she's very intelligent. You don't get a PhD by being an idiot. But anyway, she changed different careers. Literally didn't stay as a neuroscientist. She went and worked for, I think, a politician. I think she went and did some other type of government job for the National Institutes of Health. Anyway, I want to give her a whole resume, but ultimately became like a program director at a college, and then her and my father decided to homeschool my brothers and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's beside the point. The whole point being is that with that generation, my generation, the generation coming along, or the people that are alive now, what have you, like my father's old school. He's like, man, I knew what I wanted to do since late 80s, early 90s, and he's doing it. He's in public health. My second mother, myself, and others, you kind of bounce around. My wife is different. She's stuck with teachers. She's never changed. I mean, she's done other things, work in the college and stuff like that, but it's always been teaching. And so that's the thing about it, though, is that for some of us, it takes hard work to really figure out what it is that you're called to do. And being called to do something is, like I said before, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get rich off of it, but I think what it can mean is that, like I said before, it provides you with some level of joy or happiness, if you want to use that. It can be subjective. And it can also be one of those things that when you're waking up in the morning and you're like, man, I'm getting to go do this to be a blessing in people's lives. And I think it is something of a rare thing. Not for everyone, or at least not in the fashion we see it. Like some people may think, okay, well that's not possible. Like I remember I'm not gonna say names, but I've talked to people before who've been like, that's not possible. Nobody can ever find a job that they truly love, truly want, truly are blessed by, or whatever. And I don't think that's the case. I think that for a lot of us, it's because of our circumstances, right? So if an opportunity pops up in another city or state, many of us just can't up and leave to go to that opportunity because we're anchored where we are. We got families to take care, our families to take care of. Our parents may be getting older, so we have to be there to take care of them through sickness and what have you. They're getting older, what have you. So it could be a lot of things that can prevent you from moving forward. I've actually told kids that were in high school and stuff like that, like, some of them weren't religious. So I'm like, look, really take time to think about it. I always suggest praying about it and seeking wise counsel about what do you think is for you and what's for your future. And don't be afraid to go in the military. I know a lot of folks probably bash me for saying that, but I have a huge respect for it. That was one of the biggest regrets in my life that I didn't go do it. I was too afraid for whatever reason at 18. I guess being yelled at by, those guys in the boot camp. But my father was in the military. Uncles have been in the military. I just appreciate them serving. And I have a huge love and respect for, my country. I'm a traditionalist, so I like putting my hand over my heart when it comes to saying the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that. So anyway, my whole point being is I've told young people, like, look, don't be afraid to go into the military and do your couple years and use the GI Bill or what have you to go through school or maybe put you in another position to go into another state, another country and do whatever. You never know what is for you. But prayer, my dad's big thing used to tell me when I was younger, was write down the pros and cons. What's the pro and the con of me doing this? What's the pro and the con of me doing that? Also, another thing I never forget, listening to Dave Ramsey, who I would suggest a lot of people listen to. I'd have to do a better job myself of doing the Financial Peace University kit, but somebody who I truly respect, he was talking to somebody over the phone, maybe a young lady, but she wanted to go to another place. Her husband did not want to go to that place. So, and that happens in marriage. Somebody's got to be able to be willing to sacrifice, and sometimes you have to be adaptable, right? And so, anyway, make a long story short, she was like, well, he doesn't want to go, and they were like, well, would he be willing to leave and go and just try out another place for maybe a year? And then if you realize that it just did not work out, then go back, go back to your home or go back to whatever town you came from. And I think a lot of people are so afraid to try something new. That goes back to that fixed mindset. And I'm forgetting the other word now. Fixed mindset versus I forgot the other mindset word, but if I think of it, I'll try to remember it later on. But having that fixed mindset, sometimes people are not willing to try something new or different. And when you're trying to find your calling in life, especially to my children, the thing I want them to know, when you're trying to find your calling in life, that you have to kind of break that fixed mindset. You have to be willing to try things that are a little bit out your comfort zone. You may end up surprising yourself with you really love. And also know that just because you did something at the start of your young adult life doesn't mean that's the thing that you'll end up doing when you're older in your 60s and 70s. So think about it. Finding your calling It's serious work, and Daddy loves you.